people do what they want to do.
Like hate.
Well, it's true. You have some harmful people on both the extreme left and the extreme right. But I suggest that the more extreme those opposites get, the more moderate this society becomes. Because when you average out all those extremes, you come up with a society that's pretty well anchored in the middle. And that's what we all want, isn't it? A society where all of us can live, all races, all religions, all views living together, forging ahead as one.
The Last Supper from '95, directed by Stacy Tidal, starring Cameron Diaz, Ron Eldard, Courtney B Vance, Bill Paxton, Mark Harmon. There's a lot of cameos in this movie, but I'll get to that in a second. I don't know if a lot of people know about this movie, but I happened to catch it like years ago on cable. I love this movie, even though it's a very political movie, and I'm not political at all. But I just think it's funny how a movie like this just, to me, it's like as long as there's a divide, that there could be like no peace. But anyway, it stars about a group of grad students who they invite a guest over like every week to talk about current events or politics or what have you. And then like something goes wrong with one of the guests. And from then they have this idea to where, you know, like maybe they can make the world a better place if they simply get rid of those that don't align with their values politically or what have you. The movie starts out with a poster of a missing girl, Jenny. But throughout the movie, you'll see like scenes of a detective played by Nora Dunn looking for this girl. Well, anyway, it starts off with Ron Eldard, who plays Pete, and like he's on his way to the house where he shares with the rest of the grad students. He brings a guest over, not a planned guest, but like he happened to pick him up because his truck broke down, and that person is Zach, played by Bill Paxton. So right away, this dinner is a little awkward because Zach, he's not hiding from the fact that he is like right off the bat, he's just like talking about his serving time and that he's a patriot. And he actually, what starts off the awkwardness is they're starting to eat dinner, and he was like, so what, you don't say grace? And so they kind of look at him like, I mean, no. And then he ends up just saying grace like to himself. So it like right away it was kind of awkward. Like the whole conversation gets sideways when he talks about being a Marine, and he's calling like, you know, other people who don't serve like, you know, wimps, and like, and then he makes a comment towards Courtney B Vance, like a racist comment, and like it just keeps getting worse and worse from there. Like he just starts insulting everybody, and also the Jews, and he says that Hitler had the right idea, and like they can't prove like the crimes that he's done, and he was saying that like the Jews stole from Germany, and that's why this whole thing happened. And like Mark, he is a Jew, and he gets pretty like heated from his comments, which rightfully so. And it ends up being like he ends up putting a knife to Mark's throat. Like the dinner just goes sideways. And so he ends up like insulting more. And then Pete, he tries to save him, and he's, you know, gets a knife up to him. Well, anyway, he turns around and breaks Pete's arm. So like already like things are just like going downhill. Well, Mark ends up stabbing him, and so he dies. And they are freaking out. Annabeth Gish, who plays, oh gosh, what's her name? Pauline. She's just like, we have to call the police right away. You know, like we have to do something. And everybody's freaking out except Luke, played by Courtney B Vance. He's just very calmly sitting there while they're all freaking out, trying to, come with the game plan. And he's just like, well, let's just bury him and forget all this happened because he was a bad person anyway. And so they were just like, no, we can't do that. And he does convince them, like, well, hey, he could have been the next Hitler. He could have been, he could have done a lot of damage. So it's like, let's just bury him and just forget all about it. So this is actually the start of the rest of the movie. They have this discussion on like bringing in bad people and like doing something about it before they commit harm to the world. Basically, anybody who disagrees with them politically. So the list of dinner guests, the first one that they invite is a reverend, played by Charles Durnan. He's very much against homosexuals, and he said that basically AIDS was a cure, not a disease to them, and it's just like, oh, so like he's first to go. The second victim, played by Mark Harmon, and he's like this chauvinist male, like dominant male, saying that women are the weaker species, and they need to like be put in their place, and it's just like, okay. So another one was like a pro-life activist. There was another dude who like for some reason like really hated the homeless, and it's just like, wow, these are like pretty extreme people. I thought what was really funny was there was this Jason Alexander who plays like this anti-environment person, and what was funny is that he's like eating a cheeseburger and like smoking a cigarette at the same time. And I just thought that was so funny. I forgot to mention that like how they've been killing everybody is that they have like 2 decanters of wine. One has arsenic in it and one doesn't. I think the red wine is the good wine and the white wine is the killer wine. And throughout the movie, it shows like kind of back and forth of the detective like just trying to do what she can to search for like get leads on the missing girl Jenny. And one thing that she did notice was like the abandoned truck from the beginning when Pete took Zach to the house. She got the license and she traced it back to Pete's car, who I think he left there, and he also left a rifle in the car. So that's how she like got him to come into the office so she could question him. And then during that time, she shows him a bunch of pictures of like possible people that he picked up, because he told her that like, oh, I picked somebody up or whatever. And then she shows him a lineup of criminals, and like one of them is Zach. So he's just like, oh, I haven't seen any of these people. And so like that becomes an issue later. Now there is a scene where Mark and Jude go to Luke, and they're having this serious conversation where it's like, hey, you know what? We've been like killing these people too early. We need to give them more time to see if we could try to sway their views, or whatever, because we're just not giving them enough time. And Luke's just not having it. He's just like, I think the plan's going well. So then they have like this librarian over, and she's like totally dogging on Catcher in the Rye. And they do not like that. Like they couldn't wait to like pour that wine. And then meanwhile, the doorbell rings and it's the detective, and Mark answers it. And she's just like, hey, I'm trying to, can I get you to look at these pictures? And she shows them the same like lineup that she showed Pete when she had him at the office. And he stops at the picture of Zach. He kind of like hesitates. And then Pauline, she comes up to the door. Because by the way, they're a couple. I didn't know if I mentioned that earlier. She's just like, hey, honey, who's at the door? And she sees the detective. And she's playing it real cool. She's just like, hi, officer, can I help you? And then like she lets her look at the pictures too. And she's going through them like real quick. She's just like, oh, I don't know any of these people. They look awfully dangerous, And so Mark is just like frozen, like he doesn't know what to say. And then all of a sudden Pete comes up to the door because there's like a loud thump, So Pete comes to the door, and then he sees the detective, and the detective is just like, oh, hey, is this where like you picked up, this is where y'all came picking up Zach or whatever? or not Zach, she didn't say Zach, but like, she was grilling them basically about like, you know, who it must be, and to look at the pictures one more time. And they're just like, I swear we don't know any of these people. Well, anyway, she leaves. And so they go back into the dining room, and of course, like the librarian is like stabbed in the back, and Luke stabbed her because she didn't drink wine. So it's like, you know, she's gone too. And I didn't mention this either, but like where they've been burying them in the backyard, they've been burying them in the backyard, like, and like tomatoes have been growing like crazy back there. And also, before the detective left, she let Pete know that there was blood in Zach's truck and it matched Jenny. So unfortunately, like, she still thinks that she's out there, of course. But that just goes to show, like, Luke's idea, like, hey, we got rid of a bad person, so we're doing something right. Okay, now things took, like, a dark turn because for some reason they invited a high school girl, which I don't know how she got there. It doesn't explain, but she's, like, 17. And she's, like, suing her school because they want to, like, force sex ed. And she's, you know, like, totally against it. And of course, everyone's just making fun of her, except for Cameron Diaz, like Jude. She was just like, you know, she kind of felt sorry for her, but like Luke couldn't wait to, you know, get rid of this girl. And it's like, man, she's a teenager. Anyway, they end up letting her go. So the next day, the detective actually comes back to the house, and she like, she sees like the backyard where all these tomato plants, and it looks very suspicious because it looks like a bunch of like plots, you know. And Luke is talking to Jude and having a little conversation, and they both go in the house. Well, anyway, the detective jumps the fence, and she's like, you know, lurking around in the backyard, and so she's like picking at the tomatoes. Well, Luke stops her and basically like kills her because, like, you know, like she didn't necessarily like find out anything, but it was kind of like, you know, she's suspicious. And then cut to later, it shows Pete and Luke at the airport, and it's like storming real bad. Well, anyway, they see Ron Perlman, who actually throughout this whole movie, also, it's been showing him like on TV. He's like this spokesperson, and he does a lot of like conservative political views, so they watch him a lot throughout this whole thing. And they see him at the airport, so they're like, oh my God, it's you. You're, you know, you're great. And he's just like, oh, well, thanks. And then he asks them like, hey, do you know of anywhere like good to eat? So then it gives them the idea like, let's invite him over to our house. So during this dinner, we find out, because they, you know, they ask him a lot of questions about his conservative views. We ends up telling them, he's just like, well, he's more of a centrist, and, you know, he likes to, for good ratings, he likes to say what he thinks the people want to hear, which a lot of his followers are very extreme right. And so Luke was pressing answers from him, and he's just like, oh, well, so if you don't believe those things, then why are you telling people that? Because they're willing to listen and follow whatever you say and do. And so he's just trying to kind of give them a wishy-washy, like, mutual answer, which Luke was like not having it. So finally Luke asks him a question like, you know, hey, if you were a time traveler and you met some, you know, a boy named Adolf and he hasn't done anything yet, like, would you kill him? And Norman's answer is no. And like, he gives his answer as to why, but that was not a good enough answer for Luke. He gets up, walks to the kitchen, and everybody else kind of gets up awkwardly one by one and follows Luke into the kitchen. And finally, Luke's just like, you know, this man is Satan. Like, we need to kill him now. Like, you know, he's just saying a bunch of bullshit to, you know, cater to anyone who wants to listen to him. And of course, they're all trying to convince Luke otherwise, like, hey, no, let's, you know, I think we changed our mind. We don't want to kill him. As they're having this conversation in the kitchen, Norman's just kind of looking around, and, you know, it's still storming a little bit. He's reading the paper. You know, he notices there's a lot of like locals who are missing, feared to be dead. And then he takes a look at the backyard. He sees a bunch of like, you know, what really does look like plots, you know, with just tomato plants on top of it. And he's like putting two and two together. He's just kind of like, huh. And, you know, at one point he even smells the wine and it smells really bad. He's just like, oh. And so he's like looking at the wine, looking at the plots, reading the paper, and just kind of like, holy shit. Like, he's not saying anything, but he's just kind of like, you know. Well, anyway, Luke, he whips out a gun, and they're all asking him, like, oh my God, where'd you get that gun? And he said it was from the sheriff because he had killed her earlier. And they're like, oh my God, we've gone too far. So Cameron Diaz, she, like, is calling the police because she's just like, you know, we've lost it, you know. And of course, you know, they convince him to, like, put away the gun and everything. And of course, this is at the end of the movie. They're one by one coming back to the dining room table. And Norman, he's just like patiently waiting for them. He's just like, oh, you know, like, hey, can we, I want to give a toast. Thank you for this lovely dinner. And so, like, they all have glasses of wines in front of them. He's not drinking, though. And, you know, they kind of asked about it, like, oh, you're not going to drink? And he's just like, nah, you know. And he tells them why, but I can't remember. And so, like, they all toast. And turns out he poured that bad wine in all of their cups. And it doesn't, like, that's basically the end of the movie, which is pretty eerie. But I liked it too at the same time. Like, this was a really cool movie. I don't know if, I think it's kind of hard to find. So if it's streaming anywhere, I don't know. I happen to have the DVD still after all this time. I don't know if it's out of print. But if y'all get a chance to check this movie out, I would suggest it. It's really good. It's got these fun cameos in it. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if anyone's seen it. Did I forget anything? Let me know.
Dying's easy. Ain't nothing heroic about dying. But if you can take a stand for something you'd kill for, that's something. Something special. A murderer.
We have to tell the police what happened. They'll understand.
Of course they'll understand. College kid kills farm boy war hero. Yeah, you'll probably just get a ticket.